Starship just shifted gears hard. Moonbase Alpha is now the priority, Mars takes a back seat, and the reasons why are blowing up the space community right now. Imagine waking up one morning, looking through a telescope in your backyard and seeing an actual city glowing on the moon. Built by SpaceX, growing itself and already turning a profit. Not in 50 years, not in 20, in the next decade, if Elon Musk's latest pivot holds. Today we're diving into why this makes perfect sense, how it could actually happen, and what this lunar city will look like when it starts coming together. My name is Felix, welcome to What About It, let's dive right in. A lunar base before Mars? SpaceX's Starship pivot has been the hottest topic in spaceflight for weeks now, and it's not slowing down. Just days ago, Elon doubled down in an all-hands-on-deck talk. Moonbase Alpha is the priority, a self-growing city on the moon in under a decade.
In order to understand the universe, you must explore the universe. There's only so much you can learn from just being on Earth, with telescopes and colliders on Earth. Ultimately, you have to go out there and you have to explore the universe to understand it. And that's the motivation behind the combination of SpaceX and XAI.
In my latest episode, I broke down why this shift happened and why the moon is the smarter, faster stepping stone. If you haven't seen it, go check out the card or the description link right now. It'll answer so many questions. Today we're diving deeper than ever. Why do we even want a permanent lunar outpost? How realistic is it to build one with today's tech and Starship's rapid evolution? And what will this base actually look like as it grows from a few landed ships into something humanity has never attempted before? This future is accelerating faster than anyone predicted. Let's start with the question I get asked more than any other: why leave Earth at all? We've got oceans of water, a breathable atmosphere, a biosphere that keeps everything running, moderate climates in most places, and Twinkies.
I could use a Twinkie.
Plus, we have real problems down here. Climate, inequality, resource strain. Shouldn't we fix home first before chasing the stars? Here's the comforting truth. Nobody is forcing you to leave. If you love Earth, and most of us do, you can stay. Enjoy the gravity, the sunsets, the Twinkies.
I like snowballs. I hate coconut, not the taste, the consistency.
SpaceX isn't evacuating the planet. This is an optional exploration. But for those driven by curiosity, it's about untapped potential. Let me paint the picture that never fails to blow my mind. They squash everything together so planets are visible. In reality, if you zoom out to true scale, the sun shrinks to a tiny dot, and the planets vanish entirely. That central dot? It contains 99.86% of the solar system's entire mass. Earth? A pathetic 0.0003%. Every human who has ever lived, every war, every love story, every scientific breakthrough, every animal, plant, and ocean, it all happened on this microscopic speck. We don't even need to talk about the galaxy or universe to see how tiny our current home is. So the real question flips. Why would we voluntarily confine ourselves to 0.0003% of just our own solar system? It's the same ancient drive that pushed humans out of Africa 70,000 years ago. If our ancestors had stayed put, none of today's civilizations would exist. No Europe, no Americas, no internet, no spaceflight. By refusing to explore, we're choosing to freeze humanity's story right where it is, denying futures we can't even imagine yet. That's why Elon and SpaceX are obsessed. And they are far from alone. NASA, China, and private companies all see the same truth. SpaceX just has the biggest vision and the fastest execution. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Are you team stay on Earth or are you a let's expand fan? Does this question keep you up at night as it does me? Ready for the next big question? How do we actually start building something permanent up there? Hey, if you're enjoying this video and the journey we're on together, could you do me a huge favor? Hit that like button and subscribe. It means the world to me and helps more people find the channel. And if you really want to go above and beyond and support what I am building here, check out Patreon or become a channel member right here on YouTube. That's what truly keeps these episodes coming week after week. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, you rock. The foundation of everything beyond Earth is one milestone, a self-sustaining settlement. It's that first small village on the coast of a new continent, one that could keep existing even if there were no supplies from home. If we manage to do this, it kicks off that path into a future where nothing seems impossible. It doesn't matter if that happens on the moon or on Mars, what counts is that it must be self-sustained. That's what needs to be demonstrated for everything else to be possible. After that, you just adapt your design and replicate it in another place or in another world. It doesn't matter where you prove it first, what matters is proving it at all. The moon has massive advantages. A 2-day trip versus a 6 to 9 months to Mars. Launch windows every 10 days instead of every 26 months. You can iterate 10 to 20 times faster. That's why, as Elon said just last week, a self-growing lunar city is possible in under 10 years, while Mars will take 20 plus. Now comes the part that is a bit harder to explain. How can it be done? How can that first self-sustained settlement be built? What elements are needed to make it self-sustaining? How large are we talking? We're talking large, very large to be precise. Musk mentioned it before. Roughly 1 million tons of cargo would be needed. There is little difference between the moon and Mars here. You need water, carbon, and other resources to manufacture what you need to survive, and you need huge amounts of power generation to access it. The moon has all of it available. Bulk regolith processing can yield metals like iron, aluminium, or titan, and oxygen via electrolysis, carbothermal reduction, or other methods. Energy intensive, but viable with solar and nuclear power. The game changer is delivery. You've watched Starship evolve with me for years. By early 2026, we're on the cusp of version 3 flights. Flight 12 is targeting March. If you need 1 million tons of payload delivered, your means of transportation needs to be radically different than anything in existence. It needs to be very cheap per launch, and it needs to be able to launch all the time. Way more often than other rockets, including Falcon 9, which is currently setting the benchmark for the industry at a launch every 2.2 days on average. Starship will launch even more often. Once you've figured out how to build it, you can start shipping things. Lots of things. Everything from solar panels to batteries to habitats to factories. Let me give you an example of what 1 million tons of cargo would actually look like. You've likely seen one of these before. It is a ULCV, or Ultra Large Container Vessel. The top-tier lifter in today's cargo business. Nothing carries more weight than these guys. No other vehicle, be it an ultra-long cargo train or anything else, comes close to ULCVs. Including the weight of the containers, these ships can carry around 150,000 tons of cargo. So SpaceX's task of building a self-sustaining outpost on the moon would need more than 6.5 of these ships fully loaded to the brim. But SpaceX can't fly container ships to the moon. They'll need to do this with Starship. The largest currently known variant to be built at some point and flown would be Starship version 4. Currently, we're waiting for SpaceX to get ready for the first version 3 launch. Flight 12 will mark the beginning of it, and you shouldn't expect to see too many launches. My current estimate would be around 10 to 20 launches, because version 4 is the final goal. Musk commented on version 4 several times now. 142 meters tall, 42 engines, 200 tons plus of cargo capacity. Starship version 3 is the first real step into mass production. Version 4 is the one to be used for all these mega projects. It's supposed to fly hourly. That is the goal, and that's what separates it from any other rocket. There is one spaceship that might be even better though. Today's video sponsors are Dataleak and GameExcite. And what they're about to release is a real treat for Trekkies, sci-fi, and space fans alike. Are you an old-school Trekkie? Do you hunger to get back to those glorious days when decisions counted and space was actually dangerous? Get ready to take command of one of science fiction's most iconic vessels. Star Trek Voyager Across the Unknown puts you in the center chair. Literally.
Coffee, black.
Coffee black, not whiskey.
Get another one?
You're at the helm this time. Stranded far from home in the Delta Quadrant, you're the one managing crew and resources. Make your own decisions as you try to bring Voyager back home. It is not as simple as replaying the original story. Your decisions matter. You can change Captain Janeway's decisions and experience alternative storylines. Coffee with sugar? maybe not. But did you ever wonder what could have happened if the crew embraced Borg tech? This is a unique story-driven survival strategy game with roguelike elements. Endless hours of fun are waiting, no matter if you're playing on PC, PS5, Xbox Series S and X, or Nintendo Switch 2. Star Trek Voyager Across the Unknown releases on February 18th, 2026. You can check out the game by clicking on the link in the video description. I certainly will. Alright, back to Moonbase Alpha, let's do the comparison. You could lift 200 tons to space with New Glenn. It would cost a bit more, but it would be absolutely doable. Especially with the announced future upgrade of the 9X4 variant, 70 tons to LEO, now we're talking. The real difference comes with cadence though. Using Blue Origin's New Glenn 9X4 to send 200 tons to low Earth orbit, you'd need 3 launches. With a launch cadence roughly the same as Falcon 9, which I do believe they can eventually achieve, you'd end up with approximately a week of time needed. But that doesn't even include refueling flights to reach the moon. With Starship flying daily, you can achieve 1,400 tons in the same time frame, or 200 tons delivered to the moon including refueling. With it flying hourly, the numbers are getting to where you need them to be to move those 6.5 container ships to the moon. That's 4,800 tons per day, around the same number as what SpaceX launches to orbit annually right now. And per year, 1.7 million tons, almost double what would be needed. Musk estimated that it will take 10 years to build Moonbase Alpha, as he calls it. Over the course of 10 years, it would only need 500 launches per year. If Starship version 4 can refuel a lunar Starship in orbit in 5 flights, as Elon Musk stated, they'd need another 2,500 launches to refuel and send 500 Starships to the moon annually. SpaceX would need a sustained version 4 Starship launch cadence of roughly 8.2 launches per day to lift 1 million tons to the moon in 10 years. That doesn't sound too bad considering they're actively building 5 pads right now. And then comes the tricky part, what to build and how to build it. We already have quite a few clues about what SpaceX's plan is currently. This one, for example, it was a reply to an idea often discussed, and Musk seems to be in favor judging by the reply. I showed this animation in my last episode, and it sparked a lot of discussion under the video and on X, where I also posted it. Why would SpaceX want to waste a perfectly fine Starship as a habitat? Why not reuse it to transport more cargo to the moon? The concept is simple. What if the entire upper stage could be the payload? After all, a Starship upper stage, so the ship itself, has a dry mass of around 120 tons, mostly steel. That's more than a third of what it can carry as a payload in version 4. Using the Starship as construction material for a habitat would increase the payload delivered to the lunar surface to around 90% of its dry mass. The hull is already pressure-tight and rather conveniently shaped for a habitat. Lay it down, then reconfigure some components such as airlocks and solar panels. They could even be delivered by the same Starship. You have 200 tons for extra parts. Then cover it with lunar regolith for radiation and micrometeoroid protection. Covering it with lunar regolith is extremely mass efficient. You don't need to bring it with you, it is already there. Not all 5,000 Starships flown to the moon need to come back. Place some Optimus robots on top of your payload compartment and you have the tool to assemble it. It would basically be like an IKEA-style lunar habitat. Everything is included in the package. Let's just hope that the instructions are better. That is far from being the only thing needed though. It would be a dramatic first step, no doubt, but this lunar habitat wouldn't be self-sufficient. It needs far more than that. Musk's plan is for more than just a hotel or a science outpost. He wants to extend humanity's reach in a permanent way. He wants to make it profitable. SpaceX recently filed with the FCC for a super-duper mega satellite constellation. They requested a license to operate 1 million AI compute satellites in low Earth orbit. In comparison, Starlink currently has about 10,000 active satellites, so this proposed constellation would be 100 times larger, dwarfing Starlink. These satellites would orbit Earth in a sun-synchronous polar orbit, always following the day-night boundary and always generating power that way. The purpose of this satellite constellation would be to massively accelerate AI capabilities. But there is another goal directly connected to Moonbase Alpha. He recently gave a talk to his employees, explaining a few ideas.
What if you want to go beyond a mere terawatt per year? In order to do that, you have to go to the moon. So by having factories on the moon, building AI satellites, and having a mass driver, which is the kind of thing you really only learn about or read about in science fiction, but we're going to make it real. We're actually going to have a mass driver on the moon.
And while he was talking, they showed two renders in the background. The first one shows a mass driver. SpaceX wants to put one on the moon. Pure sci-fi. Not for long, according to Elon. Electromagnetic acceleration slings satellites into orbit using lunar-produced power and materials. No rocket fuel needed for the launch itself. This mass driver would be used as a delivery system. Musk's plan is to make this AI compute satellite business separate from Earth. In the end, he wants everything to be done off-planet. Everything, chip fabs, assembly, power generation, happens off-Earth, bypassing terrestrial bottlenecks. To get this done, several large construction projects need to be turned into reality. Those Starship habitats would just be a beginning. SpaceX could use them for everything. Living space, but also storage, life support, and power generation. Everything could, in theory, be integrated into them. And also not just laid down, but also upright. The next big chunk of information came with the second render. It shows this base on the lunar surface. Of course, this is likely just an artist's interpretation, and there are key elements in it that simply would not be feasible. For starters, in SpaceX's render, that base is not at the South Pole. Location matters hugely. The South Pole is locked in. Crater rims for near-constant sunlight, permanently shadowed craters holding hundreds of millions of tons of water ice. Essential for air, drinking, radiation shielding, and propellant. Shackleton Crater is prime real estate on the moon. And the water is unfortunately not evenly distributed either. If focusing on surface or near-surface accessible ice, which is most relevant for mining, the South Pole likely accounts for roughly 50 to 70% of all the ice available on the moon. It has the best PSRs, or permanently shadowed regions. Those are places where the sun never shines. No pun intended. They can mostly be found in craters, and that is why Shackleton Crater was selected by NASA for Artemis. So, while this render does give us clues, don't take it too seriously. One thing that should be taken seriously is the solar panel ring. While the South Pole would likely never see a ring, we can expect gigantic solar panel fields for such a base. In the gigawatt range. Any kind of manufacturing-based lunar outpost would have an immense hunger for power. Heating, chip factories, life support, fuel production. The proposed mass driver alone would consume large amounts of energy. This energy would need to be stored in large batteries, which in turn need more heating because batteries are not good in freezing or hot environments. We can expect large factory buildings to be able to manufacture the satellites as well. In short, it would need a substantial base. If it's large enough, you might even be able to see it from Earth. So, can something like this be done? Possibly even in our lifetime. The physics say yes. Engineering is hard but solvable. Dust, radiation, 14-day nights, and low-gravity health effects. All huge challenges, but none are showstoppers. And if Musk can turn this into a profitable business, it's just a matter of time. Because the biggest enabler? Profit. If manufacturing AI compute off-planet becomes a trillion-dollar industry, the investment pours in. So here's the last big question. When will this happen? So this is all from recent updates. First uncrewed Starship lunar landings possibly 2027. Cargo buildup through 2030, first cruise early 2030s, permanent population scaling mid-decade, partial self-sufficiency by late 2030. Aggressive? Absolutely, but Starship V3 is weeks away, and the pivot to Moon first gives at least 10 times the iteration speed. This isn't just a base, it's the proof that humanity can live beyond Earth. Once one settlement sustains and grows itself, the solar system opens. Mars follows, then asteroids, outer planets, maybe beyond. That first self-reliant outpost is the spark that changes everything forever. Stay Earth only and we remain fragile. Always one asteroid or supervolcano from extinction. Step off and we become a true spacefaring species. And that's it for today. Smash the like button, subscribe for more. This is what fuels the algorithm, and this is how you can help us for free. Check out our epic shirts in your favorite Space Nerd store. Our brand new Raptor emblem design and countless others are there for you to explore. Click the card or the US or worldwide link in the description. And if you want to know how SpaceX managed to build Raptor 3, the new Starship powerhouse, and what makes it special, watch this video next to continue your journey. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next episode.